man. Welcome. What is that? Freaking paint. Welcome. The current thoughts. What we name and the image we have accessible directs the mind into the rawest form of the action, not the word. From print to network. A few ideas I wrote down today. As I spend more time with myself in this life, I begin to realize a few things. It's not that we end up being alone and that we're completely alone in this world, but it ends up being our own sort of perception or determined meaning that dictates whether or not we are happy, I guess, or sad, or it dictates our mood, definitely. And I think we should. I know these are repetitious, or you might find me repeating myself, but that's kind of the idea, is repetition in behavior, repetition in certain forms, where you are conscious of your repetition in figuring something out. I think that is very necessary for bridging the gap between the senseless and the nonsense, or the senseless and the sense, right? The nonsense and the sense, or the sensible. And what's really interesting about our current timeline, to me at least, is that I think when you, it's a cat, it's a fucking bug, but when you, how do I say this? I didn't want to sit here long and really just yap. I wanted to get to a point. If our image, our mental image, our mental perception is constantly being dictated and forced and acted upon, there's no time to build anything. And as I speak of repetition or habit forces us into these grooves of like movement and pattern thinking. Thoughts of pattern, or habits of thought. And it's important we bring attention to these repetitious sort of undertakings that we're not necessarily conscious of, but we're participating in, because of repetition's power over sort of anything. It fuels directly into the present moment. And a lot of what you'll find and what I talk about is stemming from the present moment being the richest thing, or the richest sort of access there is. Because in the present moment, you can sort of experience everything. But I suppose when you're constantly fixated on everywhere else but the present moment, you can't experience anything. Does that make sense? And they're yapping outside. It's funny as fuck. I don't know. He's been yapping for a while. Sorry. They're so loud. Anyway, I think when you're focused on the context around what's not here, and you're constantly focused on the building blocks of the before and after, the now gets left behind in this very mundane, gray, or dull state. And the present moment is the only place where we can genuinely and literally create. And I think what's sort of happening right now is a redistribution of creation, of what we're creating and what we're looking at on a daily basis. I think the first sort of occurrences that you'll experience as we progress in time is a direct visual sort of impact of the retraction of information, of digital information, I should say. It's not that information is dangerous or conflicting narratives or conflicting myths or spiritual outlooks or religious outlooks are dangerous. It's that the screen itself becomes the distributor, which makes the screen dangerous. Let's work on that. So, in a way, the information that's that's obtainable or accessible currently, it's almost luxurious in a way, where there's a thought of I can always look this up. I can always have access to it digitally, so I'm not going to focus on it currently. And there's sort of a so loud, the drunken people. There's a sort of, it's funny, I keep losing my thought. See if I can pick up on it. I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to just end on thoughts and ideas. That's a big thing with writing for me currently is, a book doesn't end within each sentence. A movie doesn't end within each scene. There's a totality of it that in its end form gives you the entire thing, gives you the full image, right? And I think people now are so fixated on the present moment, withholding the sort of power that can control every aspect of their life, which is, in other words, just reaching a state of contentment that no one can fuck with. We're moving towards a very privatized, performative, competition-soaked reality. It's almost like reality itself is becoming a stage of aesthetic. Carry on.